out some friends. Vision late ever since the beginning.
Welcome back, friends, to the best analyst desk in the business. Myself, Milos the Medic. Now, that out of the way for Fresh 5M. They're not here because our game is ready. So let's cross our fingers and count to 10 as we toss it to our casters. It's, as always, Fluke and Budget and Taro. Enjoy.
Hi, it's me, Fluke. Who's this? It's Budget and Taro.
Oh, that's what. That's what. No. Fabian was trying to.
Wow.
Okay, sorry.
That segues us into another point. But
Yeah.
you finish your thing and I'll say my thing.
Fabian was trying to set up for a joke with Gassan, and I knew that because I know it when people are. And now I figured it out. It's because
He's really lonely over there because his desk didn't come back.
Yeah, can we go to the desk?
Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us. By the way, there was a little bit of a tech pause, obviously, as you guys in chat worked out. It's tough to play, but we're back. Everything is, I think, going to be in just a second, hopefully. It's a lot of stress on our production.
Can we just press the start button?
We'll be in as soon as we can.
Yay!
We're
I mean,
in.
this is just a map fly.
This is just a map fly. This isn't the game. This is like a.
But it is,
I'm gonna ruin a bit of a moment for you. This isn't live. This video. This is pre-recorded. This video.
What do you mean? Stefan is not flying through.
Stefan is not flying through the map.
I don't believe that.
Easy, the observer. Good lucks, have funs. Have funs, good lucks.
Little taskbar.
Little Windows taskbar. It's gone. Yeah. You were sick. No, you're not.
I'm still
A little bit.
a little.
You're not going to stress yourself today.
No, I'm going to try
How
to
did
keep
you
it
not
calm.
bring a drink with you?
Listen up. I have.
Okay.
And it's hot water because that is better for your throat.
Why did you say listen up? Like you're like an 80s boy band. Like, listen up.
Listen up.
Listen up. No, you're
I
not,
did
you're not allowed to
bring
shout.
water.
Okay, for those who have just catching up with us, T1 versus FAV is going to be our opening game here. T1 on the up and up, FAV on the downy down a little bit. They started really well at this season, and then things haven't gone great for them for a bit of time. T1, on the other hand, have done the opposite. They're fighting potentially to keep themselves locked in on this top 4 for the first time.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to, well, not straight away make it to the major like you would for NA, like you would for EU. No, it is just for the playoffs that they are currently fighting for. Top 4 of APAC North will be taking on the top 4 of APAC South. And the top 4 out of those, it's a lot of top 4s, I know, will be going towards the major later, of course. We don't know which teams are locked in yet. I mean, we do have Talon and them on Kia, who both will be going up towards those playoffs. And there's still 2 more spots that can be gained by 5 more teams. So both these teams are part of it. FAV needs to get a win to start it off strong. And we'll see whether or not they do. Aviator Games is going to be the first site that we start on here. And yeah, let's see what T1 is going to be bringing on the defense.
Now, you've been away for about a week.
Do
you remember the maps?
I remember the maps.
Do you remember who the calls?
Yes.
Okay,
I
that's
do.
good. What about the players?
I have to say that I only missed 2 days, but it felt like I missed like 4 or 5.
It does. It always, you feel like...
It's like I felt like I missed way more than I actually did when I look back on the calendar. But yeah, I do still know the players as well.
Okay, that's good.
And I'm very happy that...
Who are you excited to watch today in this game?
This game, I was going to say overall.
No, I know who you're going to say in the other games, but...
Good boy.
Let's talk about the game that we're in.
It's not here now. Just like I don't have games now. I don't know if you do.
I do.
Oh, wait. No, it's because the dial is all the way down.
Okay,
to
well,
apparently.
you play with that, and
Yeah, it's back now. It's back.
I'll talk about Rainbow Six. I'll talk about the fact that what we've got here is T1 setting themselves up on defense. FAV Gaming, I believe, opted to attack. This wasn't T1 opting for a defense first. FAV wanted to lead on their attacks. They wanted to see if they could try and put some damage in. To be fair, they are a good attack team, but the problem is, as I said in their most recent games, they've had this sort of cavalcade of mistakes. They keep making a couple, and a couple turns into a lost round, and the lost round turns into, well, the position that they're in now, 7th, fighting a team that really, if they played at the start of this split, they probably would have had a very quick time of the pressure coming underneath the bottom of the stairs and the run out almost coming to the back of Type On.
That's a big scare there for Typon. Realized that he was being hunted out with PJ versus Nitro. It is re-ripped here. The flashbangs are coming through. The Nitro comes in as well. But it sticks on the top end of the window frame. So it's not actually going to go through. No damage done. And with grenades coming in from below as well, Crazy Boy is looking for a bit of a challenge near those main stairs. Hot Pockets are being deployed in the meantime, or destroyed rather. That is going to be a big help for FAV later on in this matchup, later on in this round, when they do want to go for a final execute. It's at least less than one to worry about.
Huge dedication here towards the top, and it's a trade out. Mephi saves the day from the door, swung wide, and there's down, doubled, up on the top of the stairs. Suddenly everything is falling away from T1. FAV, a very sharp fight right to the top of that staircase. That is entirely that hold pulled apart, because usually you'll try and play against the utility a little bit. They still had a shield up, they still had some support, but it was really well played there by FAV. The pressure came from underneath, it came from across the top, and though they lost a body in the trade, still tearing 3 out, including a player on the side, means that they can start this drive. Down towards 90, and it's a heavy hitting gun from PJH. Just caught it before the drone caught them, and well, now they see if they decide to try and stick in.
I was going to say, they have to make the right call here, because there is still a player on 90, well, just shut down one of your LMGs. Of course, FAV is trying to get a little bit closer here, popping more of these Hot Pockets, but PGH gets another kill. 11 finds one as well. Shin, the last one standing here for FAV, and a round that started so strong for them, and now there's just a bunch of angles watching upon him. He knows one is still all the way in the back. Could be swing 90 at any moment in time. They know one is out there, but he finds the head, so turns it into a 1v1. Is now just fighting against a TCSG here. The shotgun. 2 bullets are needed to get Shin, and as he finds a diffuser, a pre-fire comes around the corner. He should be aware that he is quite close. He swings around the corner as well. Misses the opportunity. A Razor Bloom goes off, and that will be the call that he has rotated over towards the bar.
Now, this is always that problem with FAV, is that they get themselves into a lead and can't get the finish, and this is the always pickup, is they have Shin. They're waiting for that, but they don't quite get the full catch. PJH went with a risk, and Shin went with a clutched round, a 2K to open it for him there, just in a 2 versus 1 situation. And that's sort of that other side of it, is he is still that player that keeps showing up. He's still that player that has this consistency and that ability to take those situations.
Yeah, well played by him there. I mean, it was a 4v2 attack, and T1 did bring it back to just a 2v1. Maybe a bit too aggressive out there in the end. They had a clue where he would be able to come from due to, of course, the information they already had acquired. Yet still one holding the door. Unfortunately, it did not work out for them. They lost that life. As a result, the 1v1 in the end. Well played, patiently as well by Shin. And finds himself 3 in total, actually. And the diffuser plant, well, finds the win as well for FAV. And that's one out of many rounds they will need here today to lock themselves in. And APAC is, I believe, the only region that still uses head-to-heads for the decision-making.
Oh, it's convoluted, isn't it?
Yeah, but FAV currently 6 points behind on T1. Them picking up a full 3 is going to be basically putting them ahead of T1. However, Sandbox is still on there as well. And I'm quickly checking what did FAV do against Sandbox. They lost against Sandbox with a 7-4, I think, and then T1 lost from Sandbox as well with a 7-4, most likely. Let me find out quickly. Okay, yeah, okay, so T1 won. So we head into a 3-way tie that way, if this is a clear-cut FAV win and Sandbox would lose their game later on today. So it could be very interesting in the end here to see who is going to be taking the top spots.
Wow, there's Shin, already trying to find his way into a bit of a predicament. Hoped that he could catch underneath the broken window and see if he could get a player that didn't expect him to be there, but it's 11 on a bit of a roam and a rotate, and Shin will just wait. Hope that on this, the rotation background, he's caught out entirely unaware, but he's taking a slightly safer route. Oh, well, he still might find his way back round. He's softening up pretty much everything to give himself the early door warnings on any approach here, and well, sure, Shin can sit there for now and wait, but it requires the pressure of the rest of the players. FAV to find some ground. Mephi all the way deep down inside the wine as Ramu's close to the top of the stairs. Number 2's there on some support. Do they know he's there? Well, it's going to be a lesson they might learn sooner rather than later.
It's going to be grenades being tossed in from below. One will be quite close. The rotate comes in just at the wrong time. And Narikaze gets himself caught off. Number 2 with the opening here. And they seem to be aware of the fact that someone is downstairs. Quick piece of utility dispatched by Mephi, who's trying to rotate up the pantry now. And with that, of course, made some noise. Is waiting patiently. PGH is trying to take the fight vertically as well. Almost loses out on it. But Mephi just strikes in, gets a kill before number 2 trades him out.
There it is. The Nook was able to instantly get that turn back in and instantly get that trade off. They find themselves suddenly in a bit of a back and forth. It's a bite and it's a blow, but it's the reason you double stack those players. A man advantage. But you had 2 last time and you still couldn't almost make it work. It came to a bit of a clutch to push it over the line, so you got to make sure you keep this pressure hot. You keep driving and pushing against the T1 approach here. Over the bedroom, and a bit of a dance and a dabble as they get themselves the triple wall cracked open. They still have some of the chance of overhealing, and they still have some of the chance of support, but with 2 grenades still in the pocket of FAV, they're keeping pressure hot. PJH, in the meantime, cold and cool, all the way underneath, going for a double down on this rotation.
Trying to indeed strike yet once more. Mephi was successful in his number 2, starting to rotate around now. Takes out the default camp. We'll give them a bit of information that someone is around that position, and this BGH is slowly starting to creep in here. You find the icon of his fallen teammate now coming through. Pings are being given by Crazy Boy. Seems to be well aware that someone is down there. BGH finds number 2 actually on that flank. He's allowed and able to help the rest of his team now with a Nitro Cell. It's not going to be hitting anything as of yet.
Now, as they're lost inside the smoke, Shin goes down, Taipon's a bit lost too, and it's a bit of a trade back and forth, some ping, some danger, but it's something for T1 to build behind. They're able to take their 2nd round there. They had themselves again at a man disadvantage. They had themselves a little bit further away from the line that they were trying to get to, but they think AVG is lessons learned. And I'm curious to see if T1 look towards that entry statistic going away from them as being a bit of a deficit here, or if they're sort of happy to play in that area.
Yeah, I mean, what went wrong there the last time? I'm not quite sure. They lost a lot of manpower here and there, especially on those main stairs. Of course, they just took out a player that was coming down from deep in study, just ran through from the balcony. But after that, everything kind of went south and ended up in a 2v4 situation. Now, the 2v4 situation did quickly get turned around into a 1v2 in favor of T1, but that's when they were maybe a bit too aggressive, like in that 1v2 situation. And that's something they need to dial down a bit. They need to make sure that they stay patient, let the attacker make the move. He needs to get that diffuser down in the end. It's not the other way around. Time is in your favor, not the others. And this is something they need to change now. They need to make sure that they do not lose as many players as early on without making these trades, because those will cost you at the end. And whether or not that will be by playing less players on the main stairs, or playing it differently, or roaming out more and wide towards the trophy and statuary side, which seems to be the case now. We'll wait and see what will be the actual choice.
Okay, FAV. Once again, early kills. Once again, things going away from you. But here's your chance to really try and double it down. You've already played this site once and you clutched a win out of it. Can you try and build behind that control you had that, to be honest, at the start was impressive? Here, it's a different approach. You've stacked yourself up towards the opposite side of the map itself. You're going to go for this bedroom start and see if you can crack your way across. There's a little bit more of a hold here. A few reinforced walls, some discs, and a couple of players to try and root out. But to be honest, your previous strike at an equally compromisable situation was quick. That is a lot. Popped along the bottom of that wall there. There's not too much from Effie to try an impact trick, but the grenade once again gets that opener. 11 is taken off the board. The Thorn is gone, and it's a very quick rotate here from the players back towards some semblance of safety.
Yeah, so they don't really want to stay around there too long, and it's understandable. They want to hold on to the actual site itself, especially with the early loss taken here. And they have the opportunity to do so. The main push is coming down from the games room side, so if they now rotate back, they might be able to fully head on to FAV as they do start to come towards the 90 area or head towards the landing. That is, of course, where you want to cut them off. You do not want them to enter the site, because that's when it gets more tricky. It's 90 seconds. Mephi still below. Might be looking for a jump out if someone would be to repel onto the 90 side. Of course, not the case as of yet. Doesn't carry a C4 either, so there's little he can do from that position.
We hear a little bit of breaking, a little bit of damage done on the opposite side. We're seeing the jump out come through. He almost doesn't get the full connection there, but there's a double down on the punishment. PJH hits number 2, who tried to move in the wake of the pressure that was coming through elsewhere. And once again, they pull back. Taipon is left, lost, a little bit looking for another player, but they just lost 2 in the blink of an eye. And this is one of the few times we've seen a lot of the time left in the round. And a man disadvantage going into the side of FAV Gaming. The 3 remaining players, including Shin, who clutched out that opener, are going to see if they can try and pull a bit of a close down here on the site itself. Still, pressure on the opposite stairs. The main stairs have that shield at the top, have Mephi manning it. They have Crazy Boy locked inside the site as well to make sure no smoke plants come through. And with a C4 still in pocket, they have a bit of stretch and range from the other side. They're going to go behind the strategy table, wider and wider, seeing if they can get a spin. Typon's able to get all the way to the opposite side of Study and looks for the head, the swing onto the Jaeger, doesn't quite see it, so goes back inside, and they're a little bit surprised, but Shin's the one that pops the biggest onto Arakaze. Crazy Boy suffers the attempt at the plant behind the strategy table. Are they aware? What are they waiting for? The C4 not to connect. Crazy Boy goes with the run and the rush, hits the default, can't get it, finds the strategy table, can't get them either. Somehow the shells didn't quite have any connection here with the man behind, and now they've been able to pull themselves into a post plant. Mephi gets one, bites his way back across Study, gives themselves a bastion to work on. They have the two remaining players holding close on the angle of red. It's PJH with a huge rotate here. He's gone undetected. He gets the strike on the first. They've got to make sure they double stack on the second. And there it is. PJH just pulls it out, but it was so close from FAV.
It was really close there, and I was going to say they played that a lot better. Mephi, of course, playing right below on the 90 window, was waiting for that jump out, and when you have the Mozzie, when you have PGH playing on 90, he is going to get droned out, he is going to get pushed, but you do not want to go and take just a straight-on gunfight, so they move someone up on the 90 window. It was the right call by FAV. However, T1 was able to respond to it. Mephi with a quick jump out, able to lock it off. Suddenly, all PGH had to do is just win the gunfights onto the 90 area. Also, good rotate around. I'm not quite sure what happened in the attempted denial of the plant there. The C4 landed short. The shotgun didn't really want to swing earlier. They, of course, didn't quite know whether or not it was the vault door or behind the strategy table. I think that might be the reason why the C4 landed short, first of all, because that was also the first angle checked later by the side of the mute / smoke. Yeah, but Mephi with that first one. And it came down at the very same time PGH was being pushed at the top of 90. And as he finds one, gets the confirmation of the second as soon as Rama gets the kill onto Mephi. He was able to quickly lock that off with the P10 Romy. A gun that doesn't have too much ammunition anymore inside the magazine. I think it's just 16 rounds in total.
So, 2 rounds in a row, we've seen the opening body go to a grenade that was played underneath, and if you've somehow missed any siege for a while, yeah, that's real good right now. Them underneath grenades are a big, powerful lead-in for pretty much any approach, but here on this site, it's one of the things that these sort of ground floor places...
Oh, no, this could be a double or triple kill. I'm ready to spread out now. Oh, detonated a second earlier, could have got type on.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but if I'm going to talk about explosives, this is something that might limit FAV, who have otherwise used it as a big bit of approach for the previous couple of rounds. Here, how are they going to structure themselves to get this opener? Are they going to be a little bit more direct to site? It could help them, because they are trying to hit that objective.
They are indeed, and they're pretty quick at it. MP tossed in some Selmas as well. Straight opening will be made near the pantry. Castle will still stay close for now, but that doesn't really matter too much because they have that entry and they can always open that up later. They just need to start working at the laundry area now. Try and open up that wall, try and open up that door at least so you have 2 entry points to go for. There should be a quick fix with Ramu, of course, carrying grenades, potentially Gone 6 as well. So FAV shouldn't be having too much trouble here, opening up the points they want to enter from.
Now, FAV, you've been able to get very quick onto what is that first point of ingress in the prep room, but there's still T1 to control. There's still loose players and threads all around the shop. There's still a whole mess and mix of people that are otherwise putting pressure into the rest of the map, and Villa is a hefty play space. Villa is, you know, in a lot of teams' eyes, an extra floor, and you got to see if you can just try and direct the focus, and here it seems like they are. They're going to get that castle open, they're just going to go for the hot hop in, they're moving through the smoke, and Shin finds PJH, and now they've found themselves all the way to the backside of site. Can they make it work? Ramu has to cover onto Crazy Boy inside the other bit of the split, and they're going to see if they can get the stick behind B, but it's a breakthrough back on the door and a post plant. They can't find a connection to a single player on FAV. They've kept themselves in at arm's length. They've made sure that that strike was fast and efficient, surgical. And now they just got to see if they can keep the cover down. There's the first. But it's taken a good 10 seconds to get them. Arakaze is able to find his first for the game itself. Mephi with a slow rotate, but there's somebody watching the window this time. Not going to have the freedom of movement as he did before. Strikes onto one. Somehow the cover did not get it, but they're watching for the plant. They're waiting for somebody to try and long arm this, and they got to make sure that this cover is sweet. Both doors, and 11 gets an important one. There's Shin with one just as important back. 9 seconds, and an important take. It just has to get the planter. There it is! And there is a round. Afro, get out of there! But he's already done the business.
He was able to find that last one, and this almost seemed to be headed back towards T1 again. They tried to find that long-range defuse, the long arm. Weren't quite able to lock that off in the end there because it was perfectly set up. If you look at it, I mean, the ID was perfectly placed by FAV. You open up that wall, you play it from outside the window, you get a plant as deep in the corner as you possibly can to limit long arming. And it worked out quite well if it wasn't for T1 and their amazing gunning potential, letting it come down to Afro in the 1v2 clutch at the end there. Just sneaking through the basement, able to find a kill and instantly run off, saving his own life. And it's 2-2 now, but one could argue it should have been a 1-3 for FAV at this point in time, who are really stepping it up on their attack so far. And with 2 more opportunities, well, they probably look to make the most out of both.
They opted to lead on their attack. It's the thing to always remember in this situation. Is sure, teams have preferences, maps have preferences, yada yada, but on the day, it's how you feel like you can go against the team as well, because all of their conversations, all of their calls and comms, and their in-depth breakdown of their opponents, only they will know.
Yeah, they definitely will. And T1, I mean, their retakes, they seem pretty strong here, but they need to be focusing a little bit more on the side because they lose that one too quickly, I'd say. I mean, they only play 2. Maybe a third would have been a good opportunity to go for, a good choice to have as well, especially since you do lose it that quickly. Or maybe someone a little bit down in that basement to try and challenge the pantry if it does get taken. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, and if we do get back around to said bomb site, we might see it played again, but I doubt that we will go back down there with the other sides available to T1 at this moment in time. Drones are being placed very high up on the bookshelves there. We'll be giving away the call that for now, 90 and the long corridor was clear, but Mephi is still around there. He's playing around the pillar on the 90 area. As pings are coming through, he's not quite sure what it means. An upside down rappel, however, will challenge him just slightly.
Here's the audio. Looks for the player. There's the pop, but Mephi's keeping himself secure for now. He knows that pressure's coming from down the corridor as well and swings onto that instead. Number 2 kills Ramu, though, because they had the extra player behind. Both of them went kill hungry. They just needed the one, and they thought they could get the connection. Mephi's handed one. Shin at least brings the balance back in, but Mephi is doing the business here. Doesn't quite escape, but 11 definitely gets the revenge. Number 2, and suddenly everybody's fallen. On the other side of the site itself, it's a 3 versus 2. PJH with a very quick rotate round onto the opposite side. They're going to recollect the diffuser. They've lost out on a couple of grenades. They've lost out on that flank control in Taipon, which is an important part as well, because we've seen T1 play that so well so far and so long for this round, Taipon.
Yeah, well played there for a long time by Mephi, but honestly, FAV should have tossed in that grenade way earlier there. They shouldn't have just both pushed up that hallway. Get in the grenade, force him out. The player in 90 window will be able to get that kill without too much trouble there, so a bit of a misplay from FAV. They could have gotten that kill cleanly without losing 2 in the process. Well, either way, it is going to be that 2-2 scoreline now. It is a man advantage still for FAV, so they should be able to lock this off, and if they start to reconvene, get themselves back together, they now need to make a decision. Where will we push from? And it seems like the bedrooms will be the preferred point of ingress here for FAV.
Now with Shin still on the board, everything is possible. It's down to see if these 2 players can step in. And PJH has had a couple of moments, but it's sort of been a little bit more scrappy and back and forth. 30 seconds. And the wall gets popped open. They're looking to try and apply some pressure here onto the bathroom where there is a player watching. They just have to have the awareness of where T1 have gotten to. And they've got to make sure it's a little bit sharp here, and the swing through the approach. PJH looping around underneath. No C4 in pocket, so they're going to have to just try and find the fight. No plays. And there's the first, and they look for the second. Just saw the side of it, but they did enough. Look at the timer, 6 seconds. What are you going to do? You got to go on a drive. PJH in the meantime gets one more. Afro, no kit in pocket, and there it is. The flank, the rotation, and once again, a cheeky little strike is all that's needed to cement a round.
Then it does come back towards the player on 90. I mean, they did know exactly where it was. They had the camera. They knew it was around that pillar. It was locked out by the upside-down rappel on the window. You move in 2 players. I believe it was a Yana and a Finka.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them carry grenades. You could have just tossed one in deep. If you toss one in deep, you force him to get off that same angle. He can no longer play that pillar. That allows a player on the 90 rappel to cleanly pick up the kill as he tries to run out. Because no one is going to stay behind that pillar if a grenade is rolling underneath your feet. You need to move, and that would have been a clean kill. That would have been a 5v4, and it could have built on that. It could have been a 5v2 in the end if the rest of the round went exactly the same. And that surely should have been a lockout. So, small mistakes here by FAV, being too aggressive, wanting to take too many gunfights rather than using your utility that you had an abundance of. Those grenades truly should have been the round saver there, but instead they wanted to go for some aggressive fights in the end, and that didn't really work out. Now, Aviator Games, the last opportunity for FAV to attack, and they have shown that they are very sufficient at doing so. Just need to make sure to do not make the same mistakes they have made in previous rounds. For example, 90, you don't want to push that straight on. You need to make sure that you have some other utility to help you with it. Well, that's a very clever one.
That is. That
Nicely
means,
tucked in.
yeah, that little drive towards it. If you don't spot it, then as soon as you try and do one of those late plants, which to be honest, FAV have tried a couple of times and found some success with a couple of times, you got to be a bit cautious. Now, as you said earlier, T1, they probably shouldn't be sitting on 3 rounds right now. And I think that's a bit of a worry here, because if FAV find themselves on the, the 4-2 split, especially going into their defense, even though they've technically been a bit of a better team here on the attacks, that could take a bit of that energy away. That could really put them a bit down under the stress of things onto their Villa defense here. Shin is looking to see if he can make sure it's at least an even half, and sure, they might have felt they should have had more here, but it's where we are, and you've got to see if you can try and make work of it. Mephi dancing around, but it's PJH that takes out Ramu. There's the Iana gone once again. They've sort of learnt the game of those vertical grenades, and they're not going to play it anymore.
No, they aren't going to play, at least not for now. They might fall back to them. Look at that. 3 people on the side of T1, all rotating back towards the Aviator Game side, towards those main stairs. They're playing rightly underneath it. One worry I have, though, is that Razor Bloom. If they do destroy that shield, it will take out the Razor Bloom as well, potentially with the explosive shrapnel. Depends on how it will be tossed in. So we might never get to see it being used. Luckily, there is an ADS. Luckily, there is a magnet. So some of these pieces of utility will be caught off. And if you look at Ramu already dead, it means a Gone 6 gone, 2 grenades out of pocket as well. There's just a grenade left, 2 impacts maybe on Afro, I'm not quite sure. And potentially Gone 6. So that shield might become a true issue here.
Wow, they're concerned about jiggling it, but the longer you wait, play the safety of the grenade, force the player out. It's a bit of a cost of the grenade, though, because at that point you were hoping, I guess it's a trade, isn't it? It's, do they have another disc? Do we have anything else?
Yeah.
We've only got 10 seconds to decide before that ADS comes back on, and then we know they have something else, so let's use a grenade. Let's get rid of that shield. It's the most important part of utility to remove from the board at this point on. But from this point onwards, you've still got to try and make a collapse here happen, Fav. And sure, you're a man down, but you've been able to pull out these situations before. It's pressure onto Volt.
Shin is really not too... Look at how many pellets he's just wasting. This is like the 6th or 7th pellet I've seen just go on the wall in this game.
It's just that sort of stress. It's those scratches at a site, hoping something connects. But there's a player underneath here right now for T1. They still have that control. They're just going to see if they can try and fight their way onto the site. But the first goes down. Crazy Boy is able to connect with the next. It's Mephi to get one in between. And that just leaves Afro a 5 versus 1. But a flawless of Crazy Boy through the vault gives them a 4-2 half and a huge bout of energy.
Not quite sure what happened in that round, to be fair. I mean, FAV has been attacking so well, literally the entire half, and they get to round 6, and we see that. That is one of the poorest attacks I've seen from them, for sure. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do there. You just see the Nomad running all the way across the classical hall towards the main stairs, being chipped by every opening that is in the wall and eventually dying. Finka runs right after it. I mean, you had openings in Vault. You could have gone for a default plant right behind the Vault door, maybe, but didn't really feel like it. And thus T1 is 4-2 up. Whilst it should have been 2-4 for FAV. Let's just put it like that. 2 of those rounds should have been FAV's. T1 has been able to get them out in the end. And that leaves them, of course, in this current situation. But having that resilience, having that clutch factor is also, of course, a reason why they currently find themselves so high up on top of the table, in a position where they can lock themselves in for playoffs. And if I'm quickly checking over, I believe...
Check it.
Check it. I'm going to check
numbers.
Well, I'm not going to run numbers.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to just check them.
Check them
If T1
numbers.
wins it here, they are confirmed.
Nice.
If it's a 3-pointer, that is.
Okay.
And Cyclops only need a single point as well, so we could just get a very, very quick confirmation of this.
It's like one of those things. I mean, last time didn't we have a very long confirmation of things? It was all the way up until like the last game.
Yeah.
Things were decided. So sometimes maybe good.
Sometimes maybe long.
Now, 4-2 FAV, and that's the perfect way to open it. But PGH is able to get themselves back up and almost
barely.
drop down. Once again, there would have been no coming back from that second swing round Death's Door, a spray through, and FAV are making sure they lean in with pressure. They're going to sort of say, no, you're not getting comfortable. We're going to try and take this at our pace. They know how important this round is. It's your first defense, sure, but it also could define the half. You want to make sure that you're 4-3 more than anything before that score starts to escape you.
Right, so right now, T1 needs to find a way in. And there is some preparation being made at those main stairs. In the meantime, Art is being opened up as well. Just look at that. Some barbed wire gone. The shield is gone. I believe there is just an ADS left that will be protecting the player out there. But Arakazi, the Sith Lord himself, is going to be trying to get that grenade up very soon here. He's at least debating it, but needs to make sure that there is no other piece of utility there. So instead, we'll just hold off to the steps here. That will be the first spot the head pops. So grenades are being tossed around the corner, deal a little bit of damage, but the smoke canister will hold them back just momentarily here.
That's it. Ramu is playing this for time. He's not using those utilities to try and deny the plant. He's making sure that he can just keep this staircase under his control for as long as possible. This grenade misplayed.
How did that miss?
It went for the different. They pulled it back a foot, but here... Oh, it's a double from the C4. Number 2 with a bit of a retreat and the cover there for a player that went down, and they're just going to get picked back up, and a huge blow. They tried to drive and dive themselves through the top of the stairs to get that confirmed kill, but they could not because they were met with the danger of a cap can. They fall back to site. And to be honest, it's the right decision. At that point, you've lost a lot of utility, and sure, you might be able to get into one more fight, but why? When you still have the site itself to build behind, and they've got 2 less players to try and take it out, and a lot less in their pockets.
Yeah, they definitely do. It's just going to be some, basically some EMPs and a flashbang left. That's all they have to try and make this execute stick. Of course, next to the big LMG that PGH carries. The problem here is, though, FAV is all across the map. You still have someone up onto those red stairs, a couple in the vault, so all they really need to do is play off each other's contacts here, but it's the first kill for PGH, and that's a good start.
Now he's looking to see if he can try and find a second. He wanted to bait the fight, but 20 seconds, and you got to do more than just bait them. You got to try and play the objective here. And sure, you got it in pocket, but you're still trying to pop open the site itself. There's going to be about 5 seconds for them to pop off, leaving you 10 to get it stuck, which means one mistake, and we're in a similar situation as to before. Number 2, he's holding the door. He's going to push through that flash, and he gets himself into a perfect striking position here. There's the first, an easy pickup. The second bites back, and they're behind the vault door, a single player for cover, but it doesn't take much to cover that back. There it is, FAV. They're able to take the first defense round.
Not quite sure where Typon came from, if he came from the study side or if he walked up from red. We of course knew there was a player out there and still had the opportunity to rotate into study with the limited manpower that was available on the side of T1. And that's the first round going FAV's way here on that defense. Well played by them. The early entry onto the big fight near the main stairs is what saved them there. Of course, a lot of utility used there from the attackers. You really saw that everything was pointing and directed around that take. They wanted that control. Unfortunately for them, weren't able to quite get it. I mean, they did take down the smoke, just injured, but weren't quite able to confirm. And, you know, that puts him back on his feet. Still a 2v5 at that point. I guess it also didn't help that PGH was taken down to 10 HP literally from the start of the round. Had to use the Adrenaline Surge already to heal himself back up from the DBNO state. That really puts you in the man down basically from the get-go. So 4v3, well played by FAV, well held on, and deciding to fall back towards the side and play off contact is the right choice as well, because T1 is going to waste some time. There's just a minute left. They need to make sure that everything is clear. When they do not get to do that within 10-20 seconds, there is almost no way a perfect execute can come off of it. And playing off contact is going to be working off quite well there. So we are headed towards the trophy in stat tree now. Number 2 is going to be opening up some hatches here for potentially some support from below. Let's say C4. That is a cheeky angle. And you have it. They're just waiting for it to be opened up, and he's just going to toss it out at that point.
Well, we're able to put a bit of pressure on early onto, obviously, as you said, T1. They sort of caught them off at the pass, and here they haven't done that bit of damage, and it gives them a little bit more to work with. But to be honest, it was just one good read on the push, and FAV have done a lot of good reads on the push. As we said at the turn of the half, it probably wouldn't have been 4-2. It took a couple of big clutch moments, or just the player being in the right place at the right time for T1 to pull around out here, and FAV generally had good ideas. They had good drives. They just got off to a bit of a stumbled start and had a couple of missed moments here. On their defense, they have a little bit more playing into their favor, especially time, as we saw. And T1, they got to make sure that they don't find themselves level here, because they'll suddenly be biting at a really tricky situation to pull it back. A lot of close down here. Mephi's going to go around onto the opposite side, being droned ahead. There is a player at the bottom of the staircase. They cover and pre-fire towards the drone. It's a pre-fire all the way around, and LFG loses out. Ramu still can't hit the drone. He can hit the player, and that's the most important part. A second. Gets the confirmation and at least gets the kill, but he really should not have had the first.
He's being hunted down there, and yes, this should have been pushing in from Art Studio and from the hallway at the both at the same time, because right now he just needed to find the LMG. He needed to get the right timing off, which he did, and PGH, well, he finds Shin. Is going to be putting it down into a minute advantage here for T1. A minute 15 still on the clock, and that means T1 needs to hurry towards the site, something they currently aren't quite doing yet. Number 2 drops. He's going to be using that C4 later on. Was trying to deny the plant, and well, then the big question is, do they have any forms of information on the side? I'm not quite sure if there is a bulletproof cam that has been used. I doubt it, which means that they need to play this off calls. They need to try and figure out where the push is coming from. Let's just say a landing C4 maybe works out. Otherwise, it will definitely be used as a post-land denial.
Well, this is where we get to have the questions on T1, because once again, that timer is ticking ever closer towards the end. Trader hands the kit in a bit of rotation down to the bottom of the stairs. They've got themselves stacked up, but they actually pull themselves back in. There's a tiny bit of width. A single player over to the bedroom to see if they can stick it in, and Afro is a bit of a backline here, but with C4 still underneath. Number 2 is in a position to do a huge denial. 20 seconds left, 20 seconds gone, and now only one rough attempt to try and get this stuck in. They're ready and prepped and willing to go. PJ is going to see if he can find the fight underneath and try and lock it off. The C4 pops a bit early, 10 seconds, and Afro's still watching the other door. Number 2 gets PJH, and that's a huge kill to take underneath. They're going to spray through. They're able to stop the plant, and there it is, a triple for the player underneath, and it was just sort of written on the cards.
They did have the bulletproof, actually. It was right next to the statue in Statuary, and that is why he was able to stop that defuse from happening with that shotgun, of course. I was wondering where the yellow pings were coming from in that moment in time, but I saw at the very end there, using that bulletproof. Just no one was on it earlier on, and well, even though that C4 might have been blown up a little bit too early, that might have actually made them think, hey, it's safe now. The one piece of utility they could have used has been used. Not knowing about the shotgun that was coming in from below. Able to take down both players on the planter. They didn't spread out properly enough. The spacing wasn't quite there. As a result, it's now 4-4. We're equal. We're drawn up. And FAV headed towards the kitchen next. It's going to try and make sure they do not allow a similar plant to happen by the side of T1 like they did themselves. That very long angle all the way out from the pantry window through the wall, just holding off for any long arms. It was beautifully played, and it's not often you see a plant like that happen.
All right, as I said, that was a pretty dangerous round, and sure, you used to traditionally be expected to take the 4-2 on your defense, but on Villa, but I don't think that's the dictation of this game. I think T1 have generally been on a bit of a back foot, even though they're up in the majority, and that's these importance of these opening 2 rounds is FAV know that.
Yeah.
And getting over that mental block and making sure that you can sort of drive yourself back into the control of this game, that's where FAV are at now. Now they've got themselves level. If they drop this round, it's not the end of the world because they know that they can pick up and push the energy of the first 2. If they take this round, then it becomes a big worry for T1, who have pretty much lost all of the stolen momentum that they had before.
3 on 1 door. All right, well, that's probably, I guess... Oh, that might have been spotted by the drone there, and now is the big worry. Do you want to take it off, or do you want to push on? I mean, probably puts one on both sides. So if they get one, they probably won't check the other side. And then maybe hopes he will be able to pick up someone from that angle. Either way, Arakaze is down below. He's waiting to get the call so he can start moving up one of these stairs. But FAV, they're playing very vertically spread out here, not horizontally. So this side of the map is going to be completely clear. No one out around art, no one in study, let alone Aviator Games. And that means that T1 gets a lot of free space, but there's not much they can do with it yet. Of course, it surely immediately borders the direct site, but with everybody still being up top and people being in the site, you need to still push through these choke points. And Arakaze is looking to be the first one to open it up. But from below, of course, grenades won't be able to land there, but you might be able to push up some of these staircases.
Well, there's a little bit more of a scrap coming through, and T1 are trying to get organized, but they're very spread out. It's the slow approach from Mephi and PJH inside the building across the flat floor to see if they can try and get some control over the corridor. We saw an angle being opened up on the back piano, but still, they're waiting and hoping they can get things set up. Here, by this time, FAV, they had already done a lot of the groundwork onto the site itself. They'd opened up the pantry wall. They'd got themselves prepped, and I think we're already trying to drive for a plant. And that's one of the big differences between these two, is the approach of pace, the application of themselves in. There's a bit of pressure coming through onto the washroom, and I think that's the pantry wall popped open.
I think there's still 2 on, actually. So they did take out one of them. I'm not quite sure if they've droned it properly. The drone did go in, but didn't quite check, I believe, for these Capcan traps. They are, yeah, they were going to be able to get it there. So well played by them, and that means they can now start to open up. But Typon is going to swing as soon as the EMP goes off.
Well, that's it. They're going to see if they can get the Selmas connected. It's an impact over the top to open the first. The second goes for the try on the trick, but it's a bit too high, that wall, so unfortunately it falls open. Arakaze gets Afro, but once again, 30 seconds left, and all that time wasted getting to this position means that FAV are just in a very good position to try and strike. There's a surprise. An aggressive swing onto a window. They don't know that they might have been so close to a fight and death there. They're going for the hop in. The C4 goes and it doesn't quite get the catch, but it's the cover from the back. No, it goes away from them. 11 gets a very important take, but is cut off on the door. It's suddenly only one T1 player left. They tried to get into sight, but number two's Capcan, as you called at the start, was the end of that, the triple door. And that is that problem with T1. Baby, it's too slow.
They start off so quick as well, though. Just look at it. Within a minute, they have the entire, well, part of the map that they were given, right? They have living, they have art, they have the top floor from study in Aviator Games. But after that, it just slows down. Within a minute, they have so much control. But when they do need to start pushing down towards the site, when they do need to start opening these up and put pressure through these openings, that's when it starts to dwindle. That is their downfall here. They needed to be a bit quicker. They had the opening. They had everything they needed, but time in the end. So they need to be more efficient with it. And FAV playing perfectly into this, staying passive until the very end. They as well know that T1 is starting to run down that clock. And they also know that if they win this, they will be the ones that potentially have the spot at the playoffs here.
FAV Gaming. This is the sort of team we saw at the very beginning. You can see a very important swap in the top right. FAV, if they win and take the full 3, they push T1 down to 5th, and they leapfrog from 7th to a potential 4th place. There's obviously still a lot of games left for the rest of the day to get the full shape of our table, but it just shows the importance of this game for these two teams if there is any chance and any level here. T1, you've lost 3 rounds in a row, still haven't taken your tack time out. You're going to see if you can try and push it before you find yourself on map point, but it's this pace, this lack of application against the players ahead of you throughout the entirety, pretty much, of the round that is causing you problems.
3 Capcans actually placed on the astronomy door towards the trophy side, all on one side as well, so no longer trying to hide them on either side. It's just 3 in a row here. Camera will be taken out by T1, and we said that time and time again. Time is the issue. they need to be quicker. PGH is looking to go down from below, whilst the rest of the team is trying to prepare study to some extent. The grenades bounces back. That is very unfortunate. That was supposed to go deep all the way through towards that shield. And if I'm looking at it, all the ADSs are down below. And if they actually roll it far enough down, there's nothing that will stop this. No, that should just be able to get right through. There's nothing there. No ADSs to protect the shield.
Well, there's a couple to protect Ramu himself, and I guess we'll see how long he tries to stick it, because before he was using those smoke canisters, and if we throw our minds back, it actually could have been a very big opener here for T1. It could have entirely changed it. I said it at the time. That first round is going to dictate a lot, and it's kind of come true so far here. T1 have gone for a different approach. They have an idea of a loose player underneath. Shin might have an idea back, and he's just holding on. It's a Nook, though, so it becomes tougher to ping. There's a bit of a call, a bit of movement, a bit of noise, and a slow creep round to the other set of stairs. The Nook is the one, I think, with the power in this position, but it could also be two ships passing in the night. No one is truly aware of each other, and off he goes.
He's indeed going to be rotating through, but that means that they probably have no clue that PGH is all the way up near the red stairs already. He could easily just sneak up and potentially get the kill on the player out there. But as the smoke canisters again coming down here on this main stairs, it remains that point of conflict. Both these teams want to hold on to this so badly here, and they use so much utility at the very start. As Maffy now dies, the last smoke canister pops.
Just mumbled Shin there as he got the kill. You could see him on the far end of your screen creeping via Mudra, and PJH strikes back because they didn't know he was in red, so he was able to get into that position quicker, and that's given him a reveal. But oh no, 30 seconds, oh no, T1, now you're going to have to try and formulate your whole push. Once again, you're in this do or die moment, and so far, unfortunately, the only option that's been presented to you by the holder FAV is die. They still have C4s in pocket, they have utility they can try and use, and now they have one more kill from a Capcan trap as PGH suffers and bites the, well, proverbial bullet. The C4 goes out the door, doesn't quite get the catch. Now there's less than 10 seconds. They're going to see if they can try and drive straight onto strategy, but you've got Afro that's holding onto the top of red. You've got a bit of a spray through, a faulty opening, and a breach, and a catch there, and a player behind a vault door. There's a scrappy spray and pray, and he's able to get the connection. There's a double with a pistol!
Way.
And it's Typon locking it down!
He misses the first shots on the Hibana. The diffuser digs in deep. He whiffs everything. Then whiffs the rest of his magazine on the Thatcher running by. So you know what? Why not pull out the pistol? Why not go for the click spam? And it worked out. He managed to pick up the 3K. Everybody was sprinting towards him there. And that is what lent him the kills in the end. And now I want to go back towards, as this tactical timeout happens, of course T1 will go back at everything that went wrong in their round. I'm going to be pointing it out as well. Main stairs. Again, they want to take it. It is understandable, but they need to be quicker. First of all, they use an EMP. That's one EMP. They try and get the grenade to roll through, but it bounces back. So that's a grenade wasted. They use a second EMP to get rid of the magnets again, if they were there. A flashbang rolls in just to check if it worked out. And then a second grenade comes in. We'll take out the shield. That's 6 BC utility gone for a shield, which is a very heavy investment, to then decide to, you know what, let's just run up the stairs, because that shield did absolutely nothing for the player out there when you want to push it from the stairs. So you put so much utility in getting rid of the player that is, you know, their shield, but then you do not actually push the player out as a result. He still had 3 ADSs, he's still playing on the actual staircase there, using these smoke canisters to try and delay you. And then what do you get from it? Absolutely nothing. You took down shield. Well played, but the player is still alive.
So he had 9 bullets left in his main, 2 bullets to finish the first, and a handful to do the rest. Well, there's a player of the week, and it's good when that happens, because you're like, write that down.
Yeah, just write that down.
Makes it a little bit easier for Stefan and Ante.
Our observers, of course, showing you everything that is currently happening. We just merely talk about it.
Yeah, they're the real heroes. FAV Gaming, 6-4. They've threaded 4 rounds in a row at this point, and I mean, that was the scrappiest hold over the 4 that they've had. That was the first time, you know, it's come down to this clutch situation, but still, it's T1 being left with nothing to work with. It's always that sort of situation, is you have all the time in the world in a round, And 3 minutes is very long until you're sort of at the end of it and you're moving through it. And you leave yourself with only one execute. You leave yourself with only one chance. And which, you know, some teams have done excellently over the course of time. Some teams build their ways around this sort of sudden execute, but it's not working here against FAV. And it has to turn into a conversation of, well, how do we ensure that either we have a little bit more safety for the push when we do this single execute, which means a little bit more aggressive work against players during the round itself, rather than the slow structural they've been going for, or do they try and go towards the side a little bit quicker?
I actually like the fact that they're using the Rook here. Now, it not only carries a zoom or a magnification scope, it also brings along, first of all, the MP5, and we'll be able to not pick up the second kill. Arakaze finds that back. But I was going to say the armor vests. With the amount of grenades that have been used, those could be very crucial because the vest, they give you extra HP, but that's not it. They basically take away the instant kill mechanic unless it's a headshot. Now, grenades do not make headshots. They just explode. That's what they do. And that means that grenades always DBNO you.
Now, they were able to get another underneath inside or towards Mudroom, and they pulled back. Number 2 at a second, where he thought he might try and hold on to 90 as the sledge is making his way round, but the sledge is otherwise. He's not going to find any immediate confrontation here. T1, a man disadvantage, and one of them is pretty heftily injured against a full strength remaining 4, a C4 still. We saw number 2 pull off a huge clutch underneath last time, so you know T1 have to pay some attention to it, but this time, well, they have one less person. Before it, they were the ones in the 4 versus 3, and even then they couldn't quite win it out. They sent a single body down to try and collect that kill, and it just fell apart from them. Less than a minute now, and they're still going to have to try and drive their way through to site. There's the bulletproof. Just saw the sliver of a player sneak and slink on by. They're actually leaning back into the fight here. Hyper-aggressive from FAV. The reveal around the corner. They're going to open a bit of width. 11 gets the drive onto the first fight there, but they're quickly picked apart in the firing range either side. One player. 11 is all that's left. 30 seconds. There's a loose player here onto the stairs. They might not know about it, but number 2 has a habit of popping up and popping off with that shotgun. Waits, doesn't need it. Typon gets the connection. FAV get the game. They thread, technically, a perfect half there on their defense.
Yeah.
A bit of a surprising upset in a surprise position.
It definitely is, and as I'm trying to quickly refresh here to see exactly what it means, I think with this they move into, for now, the 3rd position of that league. And with that, they might be able to, because they weren't, no wait, they're in 6, they go down to 9, so they are 4 still, but they do hold a playoff spot for now. Now the question is, can they hold on to it for the rest of the day? They did everything they could, they did everything within their own powers. Now it's going to be up to the rest of the performances today to see whether or not they will make it to playoffs.
But that's not for us, that's for our analysts. But before they get to that, they've got to do something else. What it is, I'm not going to tell you. You have to tune in after a break. Spoilers, it's going to be breaking down this game. Okay, bye!